We are about to call to order a public hearing regarding the proposed, Mary, do you have that?
Yeah.
I know you don't read anything, so I'll have to read it. Proposed ordinance, notice is hereby given. Selectmen of the Town of Clinton will hold a public hearing Wednesday, December 10, 2014, 7 p.m. William Stand near Memorial Town Hall, 54 East Main Street, Clinton, Connecticut, for the following purpose. Excuse me. To accept public comment on proposal to enact the following ordinance. An ordinance providing for the exemption of town-owned property from zoning regulations. Resolved that pursuant to the provisions of Connecticut General Statutes 8-2A, municipal property owned by the Town of Clinton shall be exempt from the regulations provided by the Zoning Commission of the Town of Clinton. All interested parties may attend and be heard. Dated Clinton, Connecticut, the 17th day of November 2014. William W. Fritz Jr. First Selectman, publication in Harbor News. We'll take comments. We're not going to run it like a zoning. We're not going to, I state your name, sign in, all of that stuff. We'll take comments from the public. This is a public hearing, obviously. We're going to limit it to one comment per person. This is not going to be a merry-go-round. And I'm going to limit it to 2 to 3 minutes. There won't be presentations. There's not going to be PowerPoints. There's not going to be any of that stuff. So we're going to ask for your comments. I will explain that some of the stuff that I've seen going around, the misinformation I've seen going around, this is not taking anything away from the people of the Town of Clinton. These projects that we are talking about that would be exempt from zoning have to go through the Board of Selectmen. They have to go through the Board of Finance and ultimately be approved at a town meeting. So the ultimate authority in our town government is the town meeting, whether it be at a town meeting or a referendum, similar to the school project. Okay? The school project went through the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, town meeting during the referendum approved the new school. Rumors about the existing school site. That's not in the plan, but bottom line in the story, when that contract is negotiated final, it goes to the Selectmen for approval. It goes to the Board of Finance for approval. And then it goes to a town meeting for approval. So the ultimate authority in this town is our town meeting and our voters. Not the zoning board, not the Board of Selectmen, not the Board of Finance. I'm sick of hearing that rumor, okay? My point is, why did the town have to spend $50,000 going through the local permit process to build a new high school when the town at a referendum voted to build a new high school on that site? And we got delayed 3 months. Why, when the town has voted twice unanimously, voted almost unanimously at town meetings for the skating rink, does it have to go to a zoning board approval? Those are what the issues are. It's not that the selectmen are going to drive it down anybody's throats or the Board of Finance. It's got to go to town meeting. When the cell antenna project came before us, and it came to the Board of Finance and ultimately ended up in this room at a town meeting, they voted it down. Fine, okay. If they had voted for it, why then would the zoning board have another shot at the apple not to approve it? When the residents of the town voted for it, just like the school. It doesn't mean, I've heard about the academy building. If the academy building goes on the market, it's going to have to go to a town meeting to approve selling the property and to who we're selling it to. The Mill District School, it's going to be sold. It's going to go to a town meeting to approve who it's going to be sold to. Okay? This doesn't take away from the town's vote. Actually, it gives more power to the people, the actual voters. Okay? That's my 5-second little iteration as to what this means. And now I will open up for comments from the public. You need the mic, Phil?
Bill Snigel, James Vincent Drive. I'm very opposed to this ordinance, and I know the first selectman just made some comments that have some merit, but I would remind everyone that when stuff goes to town meeting or even a referendum, it depends who shows up. We all know meetings can be packed, and I don't mean that in a good way. Referendums depend on weather, turnout, publicity, all of that. The Planning and Zoning Commission is always there, and for the most part does the right thing. So I'm very opposed to this, because what this would mean if this was approved is A lot of things on the Board of Selectmen go 3-2. There's 5 people, 3-2. There's going to be 3 members on the Board of Selectmen, for the most part, who are going to determine what happens to these town properties. Towns have planning and zoning commissions for a reason. It's a very complicated business. There's a lot of regulations. Yes, they can be simplified, but there's a lot of regulations. We have a lot of institutional knowledge on the Planning and Zoning Commission. We now have a very knowledgeable ZEO. We should have a town planner, which we don't. I lay a lot of our problems at that door, but I think what they're asking for is that those 3 people up there, whatever they want to do, their knowledge or lack of it, or their political aspirations, they want to substitute those 3 people for the whole planning and zoning process, and I don't think it's right. And some of these projects are so huge, whether it's the new high school or the old Morgan, the interchange zone, those things are going to be with us pretty much forever, depending on your age, of course. But those things are going to be with us forever, and if it takes a little time, more time to do it right, it's worth it, so be it. I adamantly oppose this move to exempt town property from planning and zoning. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Anselmo DeLee. I'm the chairman of Planning and Zoning, and I've been asked by the commission to speak to you. I've been asked by the commission to speak to you and prevail upon you, if I might, to reconsider what we believe to be an unwise decision. And I'll explain to you why we feel that way. It's not so much that you would be, as the papers seem to indicate, and some suggestions have been made, usurping the power of planning and zoning. That is not what concerns us. What concerns us primarily is the idea the public hearing process is going to be thwarted. It will not be there, despite what you say, Mr. Fritz, because we have a check and balance system here in town through the charter. The Planning and Zoning Commission, when it deliberates on applications requiring special exceptions, does so very much as a quasi-judicial authority. That means we hold hearings that are subject to proposals into evidence, submissions of evidence, experts' opinions, deliberations that go on for quite some time, and I want to point out to the global propane hearings that went on for 3 months. These are very complicated issues that prevail before a Planning and Zoning Commission. This is not a job that we as a Planning and Zoning Commission do lightly. We take it very seriously. The notion that expediency, which is what I believe the newspaper, the New Haven Register, suggested, is the reason, economy and expediency is the reason for bypassing what would normally be the typical process, is dangerous. Democracy sometimes can be laborious. Democracy can sometimes take additional time. But it's the best process we have to protect ourselves from what would otherwise be unchanneled, unbridled power. And we all know what absolute power does. We don't need that in the town of Clinton. You have a very, in my opinion, and it's not entirely objective, but you have a very diligent Planning and Zoning Commission that works well together, despite some of the rumors I have heard. We don't make decisions strictly on any political basis. We decide upon the evidence that's presented to us. The idea that a Board of Selectmen composed of 5 members, 3 of which can vote to do whatever they wish with a project. Yes, you have a referendum at the end of the road, but as Mr. Sengel just pointed out, that is not always the best way to decide when there is a great deal of information available that has not been explored. It is awfully dangerous, particularly when some of these projects become private. The statute does allow the Board of Selectmen to opt out of regulations, zoning regulations in any town. That is absolutely true. That is the law. But the law, I think, envisioned the situation where a municipal project was contemplated, not a private project. A project that impacts all the abutters, a project that can impact the town for years to come, and a project which is going to be ultimately managed by a private entity that impacts what was once public property. I would ask that you reconsider the decision and really delve deeply into why you feel it is necessary. I have read in the article that somehow projects have been stalled. The implication is that planning and zoning is stalling projects. I would ask you to point out what it is that's been stalled. If you're referring to the Morgan property, it's more than a little ironic that you would point to that property as having been stalled, given the fact that it was the planning committee of planning and zoning that put into place the mechanism to arrive at where we are presently, to develop the property privately, to allow potentially a hotel, potentially retail, potentially even residential. And to now say that we, as a Planning and Zoning Commission, are stalling the project is a bit unfair. And the stall implies that it is stopped on its tracks. It is not. We just had a hearing. We're going to a public hearing on January 5th. A decision will probably likely be made on January 5th. And that project will be right back on track as it always was. So it is not a fair characterization, as I read it in the New Haven Register recently, to say that we stalled that project. The project exists in large part because the Planning Committee of Planning and Zoning, Alan Kravitz and Christine Goupil, got the process underway. We had a moratorium in place for a year because we were concerned about not having sufficient feedback from the townspeople to tell us what they wanted on that site. We were hearing at the time, and I think you will confirm to me, Mr. Fritz, that we were going to get a big box store there. That was the initial suggestion. And it was felt at the time that that might not be appropriate, and therefore an initiative was undertaken to explore alternatives, and in order to do so, a moratorium was placed on our property. That's the history of it. Now we are where we are, and it appears that it's a fairly nice project that's going to come down the pipe. It's not stalled. January 5th, a vote will be taken. And by the way,
You gotta close the public hearing.
we will, yes, it'll happen in February, but a public hearing will take place on January 5th. The point is, we are on track, and we're doing it by having had multiple outreach efforts by planning and zoning to the community at large to find out what the community at large wants. We've had charrettes, we've had meetings at the library. There are several people here in this audience that would attest to that. To suggest that planning and zoning is standing in the way is at best misguided, at worst, absolutely ludicrous. And I defend the Planning and Zoning Commission, which I chair and of which I'm very proud. So I would ask you to reconsider your position and do something else. Thank you.
I represent the Economic Development Commission, so I'm going to read something, otherwise I get emotional sometimes when I talk. I'm going to start by just saying, better times are coming for Clinton, and I think most everyone here feels it. You certainly see it along Main Street, smart, active arts boutiques going up. We have an authentic Scottish pub that people actually go to. There's going to be an ice cream parlor and a chocolate parlor moving in across the street pretty soon. We have a new high school. We have new buildings go up on the west side. They're very handsome. The streets look better. A lot to do with this group up here. Lights, everything. It's looking good. There's also been a lot of major development in 3 major initiatives. A lot of investment in time and money over the last few years of figuring out the best way to plan for our town's future. These are very comprehensive and professionally managed initiatives. They cast light on our opportunities that we have, and they provide guidance in planning our future. And all 3 now are moving into the implementation phase. There's a growing awareness and appreciation of the great assets we have here. The historical ones, our location along the coast, the great, friendly, hardworking people that we all live among. Positive things are happening. We also acknowledge that many of the town's commissions, boards, and civic organizations, including the EDC, need to become more active. and more positive in developing and promoting a smart, long-term strategic plan on how we want to grow the town, where and with what businesses and attractions. Speaking for the new EDC, which it's a new EDC, we are changing from a group that rarely even had a quorum to a very busy and productive one, very proactive. The EDC's job is to promote Clinton, attract new businesses, facilitate their moving into town, help our current businesses grow and prosper, all of it making Clinton a better place to live, to work, and to play, and of course, expand the important tax base. Right now, we are in the process of developing a strategic plan for the EDC to complement the new plan of conservation. The ongoing communication between the new EDC members and the planning and zoning on this plan has been very consistent and strong, and it's going to result, which is underway right now, in an economic development chapter that will provide direction for Clinton and get started some actual marketing plan for the town. Agreed to objectives with well-quantified economic impact will help identify competition, our competition, determine our strengths, outline our weaknesses, utilize real data to target what businesses would do well here, and then go and solicit them, not wait for them to come across the transom. Hopefully also will help us have them come here with as little hassle as possible. Regulatory commissions, such as the P&Z, Wetlands Design Review, are rarely loved by business folk. It's very understandable. I've been on the other side of this. In any town and anywhere in the country, saying no is a thankless job. But for towns with a plan and folks that take pride in their environment and assets, it is often necessary. The EDC is in the business of building the tax base, and we understand firsthand the frustration of having to deal with any layer of approval to get something done in this town. We've also seen that the frustration is based not only on the statutes and regulations, but often on personalities and our communications as well, since we're usually dealing with very emotional, consequential issues. This is understandable, and when it happens, it's most often much more effective to address the near-term personnel and communications issues, but definitely not cut out the town's processes that are designed to carefully manage development of the town going forward longer term. Eliminating any thoughtful control and due diligence, whether it is the P&Z or any other town commission, and overseeing the sale and use of over 100 town-owned parcels on almost 600 acres around Clinton, and placing that control in the hands of possibly only 3 people is not the correct action to take. Which brings us to the final point. Boards of Selectmen are elected every 2 years. Too often, but that's the way it is. And they inevitably change. The Board of Selectmen proposal means that any 3 of its members, now or way into the future, will have the power to do whatever they wish to do with their town's property, with no outside checks, due diligence, or professional oversight. Once again, this tremendous power will eventually be held by 3 people we don't even know yet. The EDC wants to make perfectly clear that no one questions, and this is true, no one questions this board's deep commitment and love for the town, making it a better place to live, work, and play. That's not what we're talking about here. Anyone that knows anybody up here personally knows how much you have for the town. But it's not just the current Board of Selectmen with whom the people will be relinquishing this significant power. It's every selectman to come every 2 years. We hold elections. Our next one is 11 months. Who will be sitting here next Christmas? And again, 3 people that we might not know would be able to do whatever they want with the 100+ pieces of property we all own together as Clintonians with absolutely no oversight. The EDC is as fully committed to this as a selectman to growing the existing businesses, attracting new business, and improving the town. But this is not a wise plan for successfully doing it, especially now that we finally have well-thought-out plans and guidance for a new sense of opportunity for Clinton. Therefore, the EDC opposes the proposed ordinance change. Opposes this.
Thanks, Tom.
Hi, Vince Semino, and the first thing I'd like to say is thank everyone for coming out and caring. And thank you for coming out and taking the time to listen to all of the comments. I think that there's a pretty shared opinion in this room, but I think we need to poll everyone and just see that so we don't know that everyone's just coming to hear. I think people have very strong opinions about this. The town charter was set up a certain way, and there's a reason why not all of the authority is given to a small group of people. Just like our federal government, there's a check and balance system. We should never be granting too much authority to a small group of people. But in this particular case, I make a point of attending most planning and zoning meetings, including every important meeting. And I was at the meeting that caused this reaction, I believe, from the Board of Selectmen. And at that meeting, when the plans were presented for the current Morgan property, Mr. Kravitz expressed some serious reservations having to do with eliminating parking requirements, building height requirements. We have a ton of condominiums that are a part of this proposal, and it really does require close scrutiny. And I would say that Mr. Kravitz knows far more about planning and zoning than anybody on the Board of Selectmen. And I would say the same thing about our chairman. So it would be a big mistake to allow them to circumvent the planning and zoning's scrutiny and authority. Yes, we'll get to a public hearing, but let's first clear all the facts. Let's find out the real situation. Let's find out how much do they plan to sell this property for to this developer. And now I'd just like to ask, how many people are opposed to this proposal? Please show of hands. Thank you. I think it's practically unanimous. Thank you.
So that's plus people have to speak. Can I ask anybody who wants this proposal to speak? So we already know everybody here is against it. So anybody want to speak in favor of it? Go ahead, Laura. Just eliminated about a half an hour at a time.
I'm not speaking for it or against it, but I would like to speak.
Change their mind.
I feel very strongly that the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Selectmen should be locked in this room, and they should speak with each other, communicate with each other, and get across and get over some of the differences they have with these projects. This is infantile. We have a charter that we're following. We have checks and balances within the charter that are met to address issues of one part of the government, overreaching over another part. I know people on the Board of Selectmen and on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I have great respect for all of you and how hard you work. And it's not a question, and you all want the same thing. This is not the way to go about it. It's a very ill-thought-out idea that can potentially have very dire ramifications for the town. And there is a lot to planning and zoning. I was on the zoning commission for over 10 years, and there's a lot that needs to be thought out. At the same time, we don't want obstructionism by any board or commission. And I'm, quite frankly, quite ashamed that we have a public hearing on a matter like this. I don't think any of you should have voted for this. I think that you should sit in a room and deal with some of these issues and not go forward with an initiative. Something as major, talk about charter review. This is a change in the charter that is enormous. And I know it just applies to municipal property, but we're talking about selling a piece of property that is municipal property to gain money and to become a private property. So we're not talking about something that's going to remain municipal property. We're talking about private property. And I really feel extremely strongly that you guys have got to work it out. And I expect maturity from my representatives. And this is not mature. And I think we should deal with this and work together and learn how to work together. And I don't know how many of the selectmen have gone religiously to planning and zoning commissions, but they should. If, before you, make a decision to do a new ordinance on this. And it's within the town's provision to force this issue to go to referendum, of course. It can be. So, having said that, I think you guys have got it.
Hi, I think I'm basically saying what everyone else is saying here tonight. I'm just going to read something because I'm not really a speaker, but I have a question for the board. Are we, as citizens and taxpayers in the town of Clinton, living in a democracy, or are you trying to turn this into a dictatorship? With our future determined by 3 people on a Board of Selectmen that are chosen, I disagree with Mr. Fritz's comments that they're not totally true because we do have to go through the public hearing process. Last time I looked, it was the town-owned property of which we are taxpayers, along with the Board of Selectmen, who had some input into what benefits our town, both economically and aesthetically, would be best. We had a voice, and today what I feel is you guys are trying to take away our voice and our rights. Let me ask you, why would you propose to change the way things are done in the rules and regulations? I myself only have one reason that I see, and that is to circumvent the Clinton people's wishes and choose the self-serving wishes of your own interests and a few chosen people. Period. Okay? This is not a game, and it's not Monopoly. So let's stop playing with us, okay? This is a town of loving, caring people who want the best for Clinton. Why, if not for all the ill motives, would you change this? Remember, this is town-owned property we're talking about, not selectmen-owned property. Thank you.
Good evening. Mr. Fritz has done a lot of good things for the town of Clinton, and I thank him for that. But this proposal is not one of them. In justifying this proposal to remove planning and zoning regulations and public hearings from this process of determining public land use for the town of Clinton, Mr. Fritz is quoted in New Haven Register as saying it would eliminate the unnecessary time and expense in gaining zoning approval for projects of municipal property that are deemed in the town's best interest. Deemed in the town's best interest. Deemed by who? This would not include the branch of our government, Planning and Zoning Commission, if this should pass. Frankly, I don't have that much confidence in us being able to deny this during a public hearing or a referendum without the process of the Planning and Zoning Commission. If the checks and balances that apply to everyone else here were to be suspended for the first selectman's office, these critical decisions would be made solely by this office. No one group or any individual should have that power. Municipal properties are not the property of the first selectman's office. They are the property of the Clinton taxpayers. As part of the democratic process to ensure the protection of our community, we establish rules, regulations, and a podium for public opinion. For that reason alone, I believe this process is not only necessary, but imperative. It is the very process, this process, that recently protected us from Global Propane's ambition to turn this town into an industrial site. If this process were to be eliminated, it would extinguish our most cherished right of self-determination. For these reasons, I ask this proposal be denied in order to preserve a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Thank you.
I think we have an overwhelming amount of people that are against this. Is there anybody here for it?
Only one more I can tell you.
Get out of here.
My name is John Asani, as a chamber member of town and living in Clinton more than 2 decades. With all respect to the Board of Selectmen and Willie Fritz, this is a good exercise, but I think doesn't work in town of Clinton. First is, I hope you don't mind, I have to say that very freely. And this exercise should not be to should not go to the public hearing. Now,
public hearing.
no, but I'm saying that now I do see that no one said, everyone they opposed this exercise. If you go that one, we're going to divide the town. I do not want to see that. And we love you, that's it.
Not in that kind of way,
Hi, my name is Andrea Wolliver. I'm not sure if I'm for or against this, actually, and I'll tell you why. For those of you that have said that for some reason you're all blaming Willie about this was a unanimous vote. Don't forget that. It wasn't 3-2, as some people are saying. Some people are saying those 3. It was unanimous. And some of you are saying, are trying to make this a very partisan issue. I just want to say that, because that's what makes it pathetic. Okay, fine, I'm just saying, it was unanimous.
Can I make a correction? The vote that was taken at the Board of Selectmen was to bring this idea to a public hearing. We weren't voting in favor of it or against it.
Okay,
We were just voting to bring it here to collect opinions at a public hearing.
Wonderful. So this is why I'm not sure, and I want to share that with you. First of all, the selectmen's jobs, as you well know, as all of us who vote for a selectman, are to protect us and our town. And one of the things, as for all of us, whether we're parents or children of our parents, we like to protect things too. Our homes, our property. And what the selectmen, I hope we're doing, we're trying to protect us when the recent issue occurred. Let's just call it an issue. Event, shall we say. The recent event occurred. And one of those, the event that happened, cost us a lot of money as a town. And we know that we don't like to spend a lot of money in this town, right? We like to protect our money. So I think you do have to give them a little credit from that perspective, to say that they were trying to protect us. That was one of the reasons to say that we don't want this to happen again. How do we prevent that from occurring? In the many projects that occur in Clinton, in the many things that come up in front of the different commissions, they look at those things and they say, there's legal bills and there's consultant fees and all sorts of other things. This was one of the ways that the selectmen were doing that. So, yeah, you can give them a ration of stuff and say, this is a bad idea. Everybody, you can say it. Obviously, a lot of you are saying that because there are a lot of people speaking vehemently against that. But they were protecting us. And like I said, I'm not sure how I'm going to vote on this or how I feel about it. We're not voting on it. Okay, whatever. But they were doing their job. They're doing what I expect from select people. But you know what? I'm not sure if in this event for me, not for all of you, if P&Z was doing what I expect.
Good.
That's what I want to say.
Let me get Steve first, because Steve's got his broken arm over here, and he's
It's not broken.
trying to raise it or whatever.
I don't need the microphone. Everybody's speaking in very specific terms, legalese, etc. I'm going to speak in very general terms. This is not blaming the Board of Selectmen, it's not blaming the Planning and Zoning Commission. Each week in the paper I see notices. People requesting variances, what have you, to go through the planning and zoning process in order to do things on their property. It's done that way to protect neighbors, community, etc. I just would like to see the town to have to go through the same hoops that the individual does, whether it be no matter what party's in control here, no matter who's chairman of planning and zoning, etc. I just want everybody to be on the same footing, regardless. And that's the system we have right now.
John Olson, 101 Pratt Road, and you know, again, I came to this just today. It brought to my attention because I really didn't know much about it. I've been a person that's concerned about undue red tape and delays and things of that nature. But I've also believed we have a process, we need to have a process. I would hope that, you know, the boards that we have, all of them, whether it be economic development, zoning, selectmen, that we work towards getting things accomplished. Now, if there's delays, if there needs to be timelines, things that need to be put in place, I'd be the first to say we need to try to achieve that. But I don't know where the statute came from or why it was passed originally. It's been very limitedly used. One thing I do have a concern with is that, look, I know everyone's sitting at this table and, you know, hey, I think you all do a good job, but for sure, I oppose this if it's not at least limited, sunsetted, whatever, because we don't know who's going to be here in the future. And there should be a specific need for an ordinance like this. Now, in other towns, they used it. It was used for a town, for a school, they needed to do it, whatever it was a case made. And I understand that maybe for those reasons you need to do something. But what I do have a concern with is that someone could come and acquire properties, and I know you got to go through votes, and you have Board of Selectmen, you have the town meeting. But, you know, again, a lot of that stuff sometimes goes under the radar, and there's not a lot of people that show up, and a lot of things could be done, and then we wake up and have something that we don't want here in the town of Clinton. So I would say, I'm all in favor of spending money, by the way. There's time, let me tell you something, sometimes you spend the money to save the money. And to do studies makes sense. And lawyers are around to make sure you don't lose more money than you save. So just because you spend money doesn't make it bad. So all my conservative friends out there, you want to spend money? Join me. But no, you need to spend money the right way and to make sure that you're doing what you need to do to protect the interest of this town and everybody involved. So again, I would oppose it if it wasn't at least sunsetted, limited, or spoken to in a specific way. But I do really believe you should be able to sit down and figure out how to put timelines in place. By the way, we've done that in the state. We've had tension between, and by the way, there's natural tensions that should take place. They should take place, these tensions. And what you do is you find a way on both sides to say, listen, I'm pushing this way unless something happens this way. And that's the natural tensions. By the way, this should happen. What you're having here should take place. If there's no tension between your boards and debate and discussion, we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. So I would say, I don't know what the timeline is or the legals or when you got to act on after the hearing and all this other stuff, but wouldn't it be a great, miraculous holiday present to find that Kumbaya could be sung by all those. Thanks.
We have a planning and zoning commission. We have a planning and zoning commission for a specific purpose. There is a book of planning and zoning regulations that's at least this thick. Well, even thicker than that. And those regulations have been put into place with setbacks and heights of buildings and different districts and where certain buildings can be built, what is commercial, what is residential, what is mixed, and to give the authority to 5 people, regardless of what political party they're in, and take it away from the Planning and Zoning Commission with their expertise would be a disastrous mistake.
Hi, I'm Ann Fritz, 14 Old Road. I'm a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission, but actually I'd like to speak this evening as president of the Clinton Taxpayers Association. I want the board to know that I've heard from many, many members of the Taxpayers Association. And regardless of the fact that you may have been bringing this forward tonight because you had a meeting and you determined that you were going to present it, I know you haven't voted on it, you have to understand the perception. And the perception is out there at this time that you brought this as a group, and I'm not individualizing anybody, that all of you are behind this. That is the perception. You have to realize what the perception is. And the other thing that I want to make a really big point on that was brought to my attention too is the fact that this is not about a particular property, a particular land, a particular piece of property. It is about many, many properties that have the potential in the future to be municipal properties that are going to be sold, or what would happen with those properties, and the other properties that are adjacent to it. But the important thing about this is about public hearing. Having served on the commission as many years as I have, I know how valuable having the input in public hearings. And sometimes when there are many people to be heard, like in the propane issue situation, we had multiple public hearings so that everyone could be heard. So therefore, I think it's very important to preserve the ability for the townspeople to participate in public hearings. If it's something that affects a municipal property, or if it affects a privately owned property, that doesn't matter. We need to preserve the right for people to go to public hearing and be heard. Thank you.
I wanted to say Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas.
I wanted to address a couple of comments that were made tonight. Kumbaya. I love that one tonight. I really did. I love the idea of someone saying, I want everybody to go through the same thing with planning and zoning all together. I love that one. I love the idea that Mr. Fritz didn't like the idea of having to take 60 days to resolve something as important as a school on a huge piece of property. I've been trying to resolve an issue with planning and zoning for cows on a farm. E-I-E-I-O, we all sang that to our kids. I'm going to stand here tonight and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to support our commission, our Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm going to say that there's some of the most wonderful people who are in the audience tonight that I absolutely think you are wonderful folks. I think you take a fair approach at everything, you take a slow, steady pace. You look at some of the most wonderful things, and when I watch all of you work together, where you take inputs and comments together, and you do a great job. And somehow I think you need a round of applause tonight, as opposed to some of the My issue is, do I really want everybody to go through what my family has gone through? I want you to get up Christmas morning. I want you to say to your family, what are the Cashmans going through this morning? We've lost every major investment in this town over the stupidity. Where I walked into Willie Fritz's office and I asked Willie to intervene in an issue way before there was a legal action. And today, we're in a major legal battle with the town of Clinton when everything was presented to Willie in his office. And as far as I'm concerned, I'd never trust the man again in my life. I'm saying it in public tonight. I don't like the man. I don't like what he stands for in our community. I'm going to be the first one to say it, that man has had a fun time making sure that my life is miserable. So, no, hang on, I have the floor right now. And this is the reason why you people need to come out and say no to this vote. No to this vote. You need to take control. Our Constitution says we the people, not Willie Fritz.
Anybody else?
You get more
Anybody
excited?
supporting Willie? Nobody.
Surratt.
Everybody can hear me? I've been on Mark Rapuana, Clinton. Been on the Planning and Zoning Commission for the last 8 years. I disagree with the selectmen on this opinion. I have a huge respect for all of them, but our Planning and Zoning Commission has done a lot of good things over the years. And we might be slow. Sometimes we are slow. I will admit it, sometimes I get frustrated. But we are one pretty damn good commission. And we do work hard. Regulations, we go through every once a month. If anybody wants to come and voice their opinion, it's an open forum. But we do work together. And so far, a lot of things that presented by the selectmen in the past and presented by the people. A lot of you, I see a lot of you here, a lot of meetings. It goes either goes forward, it passes, or sometimes we deny it. And we deny it on a very good reason. So Mr. Fritz and the selectmen, please, I would like you to reconsider this thought on this application, on this ordinance change. Thank you.
I just have a question. How come an issue this big is not a public vote? It's so huge.
Our charter says it's a vote of the selectmen.
I know,
But then it can be appealed. Just like any other ordinance can be appealed.
Excellent. I'll be there.
Yes, sir.
I won't need that. Just a very brief comment. John Sabonic, 11 Neck Road. I just keep thinking that if this proposal were in effect when Global came to our town, where would we be? I know it's not a town property.
Private property.
I know it's not a town property, but if a Global came into our current high school property and laid down $50 million and 3 people on the selectmen say okay, and then it goes other places, I understand that. But I was so impressed with, we made 2 of the meetings on Global, and I was just so impressed with the expertise of our Planning and Zoning Commission that thank God they were there, and I want them there for any multinational company to come in and offer 50 million, 100 million. Oh, that's going to be good for our town, in quotes. I don't buy it. I want the planning and zoning there.
I'm back here. I would just like to say, look around you, everybody. This is democracy. You give those 3 people the power to make a decision for all of us. It's big time trouble.
You already had one, Bob. Oh, you didn't have one for this. You had one for the other thing. Go ahead.
Okay, the process here is, this is an ordinance. Does this have, after this, does it come to a vote at any point in time?
Goes before the Board of Selectmen.
For the Board of Selectmen for a vote?
Yes.
It doesn't go to, doesn't come to a town meeting as a new ordinance?
No.
Why not?
But then there is an appeal period.
Because the charter says.
Right, the charter. But they can change the charter.
I don't know whether the group has seen this research report from the state of Connecticut dating 2019.
By Mr. Rappin.
By Mr. Rappin.
Yes, there are 2 actually.
The question is, under the municipal zoning exemption, Public Act 63-133 amended the zoning enabling statute explicitly to apply
Thank you.
This is from an Office of Legislative Research report from 2002 titled Municipal Exemption from Zoning Regulations by Principal Analyst John Rappa. And it leads off, the first, one of the early paragraphs is titled Municipal Zoning Exemption. Public Act 63-133 amended the zoning enabling statute explicitly to require towns to comply with their zoning regulations unless their legislative bodies vote to exempt the towns from these regulations. Now, my question is, what is the final legislative body of the town? Is it the Board of Selectmen or is it the town meeting?
By our charter for ordinances, adopt an ordinance is the Board of Selectmen after a public hearing. But it can be appealed.
Before it's appealed.
So once we,
in effect,
You have a 15 or 30 day, I'm not sure. Typically with zoning, it's a 15-day appeal period. With an ordinance, I believe it's a 30-day appeal period.
so during that 30 days.
It's not in effect until after the 30 days.
Decisions on properties without.
It's not in effect till after the appeal period expires.
You have to do a petition?
Yes.
Yes.
Right, and then
Which is a big hurdle.
You know it. It is a big hurdle.
Or town meeting, special town meeting.
We'll get it done, so don't worry about it. If they do this, we will get it done. We will.
Okay,
once if we appeal, if you vote for this, and we will appeal it, does it go back to you for you to vote on it again?
No, it goes to a special town meeting at that
And
point.
we vote on it at the meeting?
Correct.
So we can stop it. If you decide on this, we can stop you?
Correct.
Okay. We will.
As far as I've been able to determine, not a single person here has spoken in support of this proposal of yours. I would, if I were a member of the Board of Selectmen, I would take that very seriously in considering to vote against, vote in favor of it anyway, in spite of the fact that every single person in this room is opposed to it. And you had this for the community, and we are here. And to do that would defy all of us.
In spite of...
Talk about wasting money.
Money, don't approve it. There is don't.
In spite of what you may think, we do take things very seriously. We wouldn't have brought this forward if we didn't think it was a serious issue.
I understand that, Mr. Fritz. However, every single person here is opposed to it, and you called this hearing.
We're well aware. Mr. Carr, this will be the last one, I think.
Thank you.
Save the best for last.
Thank you very much, and I very much appreciate in the middle of the holidays, this many people coming out to a meeting like this, and I think you all deserve a hand to yourselves for taking the time to come out. So it gives me an opportunity that I wouldn't otherwise have, and so in some ways maybe I ought to be grateful. I was one of two people who did not vote for changing the regulations for the current Morgan school. And the reason I didn't was because late in the process we were thrown a curveball of making a high percentage of it residential. This is probably, if it's not the most, one of the most attractive commercial properties in Clinton. And we were concerned that making 50% of it residential was not a positive thing. And the reason for that is, as a rule of thumb, residential generally returns about 70% of its costs in taxes. And commercial generally returns about 130% of its costs in taxes. So you have to realize that when you take in taxes, there are also services that have to be delivered with to those taxpayers. When you take those two, and when you make it 50%, the two basically cancel each other out. There is no net benefit to having 50% commercial. Yeah, you will get, let's say, $500,000 in taxes, but you'll have $500,000 in services. That's the kind of thinking that goes into some of these things when we're trying to decide. And this is about regulations. We have a lot of latitude in regulations, but once we've made a regulation, we don't have a lot of latitude. And the other thing you have to realize, you talk about timelines, we do have timelines. We have to do certain things in a certain amount of time. We have to be efficient by statute. The Planning and Zoning Commission is very structured in what it can and can't do. And we have legal counsel that keeps us in check. Our chairman is an attorney. Our CEO is an attorney. So we do things, I think, about as well as they can be done, but on your behalf. And clearly I'm not in favor of this ordinance. I know that Mr. Fritz responded badly to the decision that I participated in. and I came to the Board of Selectmen and volunteered what I just explained to you, and obviously they didn't think that was a good enough explanation. And I think they responded to that with this ordinance. I also think that there has been some reaction by, I think, the first selectman to our denial of the global propane. I think that he was possibly in favor of it and did not have the courage that unenable did to come and explain that. He has a right to his opinion and a right to disagree, but he needs to come out and explain it. The other thing I would say is that on the current Morgan School site, we did have hearings. The developer did not come and speak to us. We have two people who were on the interchange development committee who were also in planning and zoning. They did explain some things to us. We had some of these debates. We explained what our issues were. And in the end, we decided that not only are we concerned about the 50% residential on the current Morgan site, but initially this was going to include Clinton Crossing. So Clinton Crossing, at some point in the future, if that business model started to fail, could decide they wanted to make some portion, up to 50% of that site, residential, which could be a very negative thing. So in the next round, I think we're going to hear that that's been taken out. There are going to be a number of changes, but they will be to the advantage of Clinton, not for the advantage of planning and zoning. And you've got to realize that we don't do this for us. I mean, we don't have a dog in this fight. You're the people that have the dog in the fight. We're not the important people, you are. And that's why we have these public hearings, is to give you a chance to come and tell us what you think. And we weigh those things very carefully. And what I hope, and what I trust, is that you will weigh what you've heard tonight carefully as well. And for that, I'm very thankful that all of you came and spoke.
May I be an opportunist? Everyone is listening. Watch the clock. I won't go beyond 120 seconds. I would appreciate it if in all future town meetings we had a clock. You're limited to 2 minutes. If you can't say it in 2 minutes, then you haven't prepared. We don't want people who are not prepared. Secondly, the state statutes very simply say, if you want to change it, as some of the first selectmen wanted to, it says this: get a public hearing and get a vote. That's what it says. That's what they've done. I do not appreciate, I'm not supporting anyone, but I do not appreciate, and people are talking about embarrassment, when you denigrate other people, people who are trying to do their best job. Refrain from it. I would give, you might not agree with it, but I would give the people up in that table, I'd give them a round of reports. You know, I was asked, people get up here, a lot of pomposity, boy, they're praising themselves. Let me tell you a fact about little old me. I was asked 3 times if I wanted to run for the Board of Selectmen. No. You know why? I'm honest. I don't have the stomach. It's the things that you do here tonight that turn good people away from wanting to work for our town. Refrain yourself. Thank you.
On that note, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing. No? From the selectmen. Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Abstention? None. Motion carries. Public hearing is closed. I want to thank you very much for coming tonight. I appreciate the turnout, and we'll vote on it in the future.